still there. We need your location.
I'm here. Look.
Hey everybody, welcome back. My name is Katy Bentz and I'm here with Darren from Telltale. We are going to be talking about episode 4 of the Expanse Telltale series.
As always, gotta warn you, if you have not played episode 4 yet, do not watch this episode. Spoilers ahead.
Who are we having on the episode today?
That would be Murrie, lead animator.
Martha, thank you so much for joining us for this video series in this episode. If you want to give a little intro to who you are for folks who may not know and what you do at Deck 9 Games.
As lead animator, I was responsible for divvying the work across the team, giving feedback on all the shots, making sure that all of the needs of the animation team were being met. Every now and then I'll go in and animate something, if for no other reason than to make sure that our pipeline is functioning properly and to see how our character models are looking and how the rig is working, making sure that everything is meeting a certain quality bar, and just making sure that we're trying to have a consistent look for the game.
We specifically asked for you to be our guest for this episode because I heard that episode 4 is by far your favorite. Why is this episode your favorite? Like, what is the thing that really kind of got you so excited about it?
First of all, I love how creepy this episode is. I think we kind of got to delve into some horror elements as she's hallucinating and kind of losing her mind, and I really love that. And then her personal journey, her struggle, how she's trying to survive, and then she's also confronting her past with Anderson Dawes. I just think it's really cool. Then we finally meet Toussant in person, and that's really cool too. We have space battle, we get to see Julie Mao. There's just so much going on. Like, it's a great episode.
Did you animate any scenes in this episode? And if so, which ones were your favorite?
I did animate a short sequence in this episode. It's actually the part where Arlen had left the video for Toussant, and he's kind of like, "This is Arlen, captain of the Artemis." It was a pretty simple shot. I found that at that time the team was kind of they had a fair amount of work, and so I thought, I'll just take on this little shot.
This might be a general question for the team overall, but if you could speak on behalf of this, that would be wonderful. Running low on oxygen was a driving factor for the narrative in this episode. Did the team consider making this more of a timed element, running out of O2 to create more tension, or were you balancing the navigation and puzzles on the station?
We had actually considered running out of O2 as a gameplay element when we were in pre-production. We did some play tests with it, and we kind of just felt that it wasn't as fun. And so it wasn't the gameplay experience that we wanted, and so ultimately I think by the time we got to episode 4 we already had kind of ruled that element out, because we want people to feel free to explore, and we don't want them to feel rushed when they're trying to figure out the puzzles, and you just don't want to create any sort of negative experience for the player.
That would have been me. I would have been like, I can't do this. I want to explore. I can't. I'm gonna die. I would have died so many times.
Every other episode in the series, you're kind of trained to like explore and find that little nook and cranny of like the ship or something, and then all of a sudden, nope, you're gonna die.
And we found other ways to kind of bring that tension. You know, the effects. You know, the colors and the audio. Her breathing gets heavier as the episode, goes on. And so I think the tension kind of builds in that way without that, pressure from the outside of worrying about the actual O2 level.
You kind of noted how it's a kind of a creepier, kind of more intense, like narrative shift in this episode, because instead of you talking to other people, you kind of talking with the voices in your head. How did that play out when you're kind of trying to set up the story, and also how do those ripples work?
In this particular episode, there aren't really too many choices that have a ripple effect. A lot of it is more about how you want to learn about Drummer's past with Dawes. So you have the choice of like, well, what do I want to say to Dawes? What can I get out of him, to kind of learn more about her history?
So you talked a little bit about how you wanted players to experience the environment earlier. Is there one item or discoverable part in the environment you hope people found in this episode?
I think my favorite part is when you're going through one of the tunnels and all of a sudden the screen kind of flashes black, and then you see these dead bodies and then they disappear, and then everything's normal again. But it's just so creepy, and I love it. It makes it so tense and, exciting.
But during the process, friend of Deck 9, Erika Mori, showed up, and she was kind of subbing in as Kara.
That's right. Actually, Kara and Erika had like a Kara camp where they worked on how better to have Erika be able to convey, Drummer's presence. And it was really interesting just kind of watching that process. As far as animation went, we were familiar with Erika Mori because she had worked on True Colors. And so it was great working with a familiar face. And she did a great job. We were happy with, working with her performance. But it did add a little bit of a challenge, having to make sure that once we could get Kara in to do the voiceover for that episode, that, everything still matched up properly, and that the facial performance still looked like it was a unified performance.
So what is your favorite or toughest choice in this episode?
It's not exactly a choice, but I really enjoyed the ship-to-ship combat. I thought that was really cool. It's something that we see in the show a lot. But when you're watching the show, it's more of a passive experience. But here, you get to actually be involved, and you get to push the button at the right time, and all of that through the QT experience. And I just thought that was so neat.
I'd say for me personally, it's like I loved the conversation with like Julie Mao in the brig. I think it was more like my Expanse fan freak out at that point going into effect.
Same. I was like, this is really Mel. That was awesome.
I also really loved the first time we see Captain Toussant, like when she's having her tea refilled, and she just has that kind of like introspective moment where she's like, it's a habit I picked up on Luna, and it just, I don't know, she becomes this character who, before was just this threat, this like, you didn't ever see her, she was kind of scary or whatever, and then you see her, she's still imposing, but at the same time you start to see her humanity, and you might even be able to understand why she does what she does. And I really love that about that moment. I do think it's also really interesting, and I love how it kind of ties into the show, because, in the later episodes of the show and later seasons, Drummer has a crew that is her family, right? But like in this game, she's kind of saying, oh, that's bullshit, your crew's not your family. But then she gets to see this example from Toussant, and, it's something that's reflected later. Like maybe Toussant actually made an impression on Drummer as a character that later on she was willing to, kind of consider this crew as family option.
That's really cool to be able to create, this precursor series in game and to try to match it up with what happens in the future. That's just so cool. If there is anything else you would want to say about this episode, the Expanse of Telltale series in general, or if you want to say anything to the fans playing the game.
I hope that you enjoy what we've put together for you, and I hope that you can enjoy the little bit of horror element to this episode, and hopefully you get some little jump scares in there.
Well, thank you so much for joining us, Martha. We very much appreciate it. Thank you all so much for watching us discuss episode 4 of the Expanse of Telltale series, and thank you to Martha Murrie for joining us. All right, here is the teaser for episode 5 of the Expanse, a Telltale series.
Give me one reason I shouldn't leave you here to fend for yourself. There's no time. Aim and shoot.
If you convince me your life matters, and I will let you live.